The snow in the border town was finally beginning to yield to the warmth of early spring. Slushy paths wound through the market, and the bare branches of plum trees showed the first hint of new life. In the courtyard of a small tea shop, nestled behind bamboo screens and softly glowing lanterns, a new arrangement was being forged. Fan Shanji sat across from Yan Zheng. He was stronger now, able to sit up on his own, the bandages on his wounds lighter than before. Her younger sister bustled nearby, fetching water from the well. Changyu's voice was firm, leaving no room for misunderstanding. We will wed quietly. There will be no feast, no celebration, just the necessary papers to update the household registration. You will be listed as my husband, a son-in-law to this family. This will protect the shop from my uncle's claims. Once we have a steady income, I will pay for the best medicine to ensure you heal completely. When you are fully recovered and the danger has passed, you are free to leave. There will be no chains, no expectations. Yan Zheng listened, his eyes thoughtful as he processed her words. He gave a slow, deliberate nod. I owe you my life, he said, his voice still raspy but clear. This is a small price to repay that debt, and I will guard what is yours. Shenji extended her hand, not in a romantic gesture, but as a seal to their pact. Their hands clasped briefly over the simple tea bowl on the table between them, the steam rising like a silent vow. A marriage of ink and necessity, not of hearts. Yet in the steam of shared tea, even paper promises can warm the cold edges of survival. Later, in a small room inside the shop, the warm light of a lantern cast shadows against a wooden screen. A bolt of fine silk, its color slightly faded but still elegant, was unrolled on a low table. It was the fabric her mother had saved for her wedding day. Shenji moved with practical purpose, measuring Yan Zheng's shoulders and arms with a cloth tape. There was no flirtation in her actions, only a focused efficiency, but the task required a certain closeness. As she adjusted the fabric against his simple handfu, her fingers brushed against an old wound beneath the cloth. He winced, a flicker of pain crossing his face. She noticed immediately and paused her work. My mother saved this for my wedding, she said softly, her voice touched with a gentle grief mixed with a new resolve. I never thought it would be used for a stranger. He washed her face, seeing the layers of emotion she tried so hard to conceal. With a steady hand, she took up a short, sharp blade and cut the cloth with precision, folding it neatly. Nearby, her little sister watched with wide eyes. Big sister looks happy, she whispered to herself. From the street outside, the sounds of the market drifted in the chatter of merchants and the gossip of townsfolk. A fragment of conversation caught Changyu's ear. Did you hear? The great general from the border. They say he died in battle. Such a hero lost. Shenji froze for a half-second, her hand hovering over the silk. Her eyes flickered with a quiet, distant sorrow for the unknown heroes who fell defending these lands. She measured cloth and promises with the same steady hand. Rumors of distant deaths were a constant reminder. Even legends can fall, but homes must stand. The afternoon sun filtered through the shop's paper windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The sharp, bitter scent of an herbal salve filled the small room. Shenji was tending to Yan Zheng's shoulder, dabbing the green paste onto a stubborn scar with a hot compress. Her callous fingers, so used to hard work, were surprisingly gentle. He winced as she worked, and she apologized softly, her focus entirely on his healing. As she finished, he noticed a small, fresh cut on her hand, still bleeding slightly from when she'd been chopping wood earlier. Without a word, he took her hand. His touch was firm but careful. He dipped a clean cloth in a bowl of boiled water and gently cleaned the scrape before applying a thin layer of the same salve. His movements were precise, almost tender. For a moment, their hands overlapped in the quiet space between them. No words were exchanged, just a shared silence of mutual care. Shenji pulled her hand back, a faint flush on her cheeks, flustered but grateful. You heal fast, she said, her voice a little too brisk. That's good. The shop opens fully tomorrow. For the first time, A real, faint smile touched Yan Zheng's lips. Hands that cut tea leaves and wielded blades learned gentleness in return. In caring for each other's wounds, they began to mend something unspoken between them. As evening twilight settled over the town, casting long shadows, the last patches of snow glowed in the fading light. A threat emerged from the gloom. A stray wolf, or perhaps something more sinister, a spy sent by her uncle, was approaching the path near the shop. A low growl, the stealthy crunch of steps on slush. Instantly, Changyu grabbed the short blade she always kept near and moved to stand guard. Despite the lingering pain in his shoulder, Yan Zheng rose and positioned himself just behind her, his body falling into a subtle but ready martial stance. They were a unified defense. Her sharp shout and the flash of her blade, combined with a precisely thrown stone from him that struck a nearby wall, was enough. The shadow hesitated, then retreated back into the darkness. Back inside, they stood before the small family altar. A portrait of her parents watched over them, a stick of incense sending a fragrant curl of smoke into the air. Changyu lit a piece of paper money, a quiet ritual to honor her ancestors. Yan Zheng joined her, standing silently by her side before offering a single, respectful bow. They protected this home, she whispered, more to herself than to him. Now, it's our turn. He stood beside her, his presence a silent promise. And I will help, he added quietly, for as long as you allow. The incense smoke curled towards the ceiling, drifting past the window where the first plum blossoms of spring were beginning to open against the night sky. In ancient times, trust was measured not in words, but in shared fires and guarded nights. She had offered him a home. He had offered her his hidden strength. Together, they began to carve a future from the remnants of loss. Thanks for watching Blade of the Dawn. A pact of paper and promise has been made, and the bond deepens. Subscribe to see what comes next.